Students, I hope you all are doing fine today. Well, students, in today's session, we are going to be covering your chapter of moments, chapter 8, that is, a house is not a home. In the previous session, we completed your chapter 7, the last leaf. I hope you have understood the chapter and there are no queries regarding it. So let us proceed today. I would like all of you to be ready with your moments book on page 49. So, a house is not a home. Now, students, this is a very interesting chapter. Uh, Interesting because it has a very nice story, wonderful story, which is actually quite related to your life, I would say. Somehow, in some situations, it could be related to your part of a few parts of your life as well. Okay, so it's a story about a teenager who has to suffer, who has to go through a lot of challenges in life, and how he is able to tackle them, and how he is able to overcome them. That is what the chapter is all about. So this story reflects the challenges of being a teenager and the problems of growing up. How does the author overcome his problems? So let us begin. We are on page 49. The first year of high school felt awkward. After leaving junior high and the head of my class with all the seniority, the upper grade levels could afford me. It felt strange starting over a freshman. The school was twice as big as my old school, and to make matters worse, my closest friends were sent to a different high school. I felt very isolated. So the chapter begins with the first paragraph. In the first paragraph, the author or the main character, he talks about that the challenge that he had to face is changing his school. In his old school, he was considered to be superior, in the sense he was at the upper grade, or he was considered to be senior. And now he had to change to a new school. And see, the difference of the new school was it was quite big. He did not have his closest friends as they were sent to a different school. So he says, I felt very isolated. Felt very isolated means that yes, he felt very lonely, being in a new place and having no one around him. So I missed my old teachers so much that I would go back and visit them. They would encourage me to get involved in school activities so that I could meet new people. They told me that in time I would adjust and probably end up loving my new school more than I had my old school. They made me promise that when that happened, I would still come by and visit them from time to time. I understood the psychology in what they were saying, but I took some comfort in it nonetheless. So in his old school, he used to, as he was missing his old school, so he often went to his old school and met the teachers and took their advice. And the teachers were always encouraging, as they kept on telling him that yes, start participating in activities in your new school, so that you can get engaged and you can make friends. But he understood what the teachers were trying to say. The teachers were trying to just encourage him and trying to change his mindset. So let's proceed further. On Sunday afternoon, not long after I had started high school, I was sitting at home at our dining room table doing homework. It was a cold and windy fall day. Windy fall here, students, means autumn season, जिसे हम पतझड़ भी कहते हैं. And we had a fire going in our fireplace. As usual, my red tabby cat was lying on top of all my papers, purring loudly and occasionally, swatting at my pen for entertainment's sake. Purring means it was making that sound of the cats that make the sound. Swatting at my pen means occasionally, swatting means attacking my pen or trying to fiddle with the pen. There was never far, she was never far from me. I had rescued her when she was a kitten, and somehow she knew that I was the one responsible for giving her a good life. My mother kept stoking the fire to keep the house nice and warm. Suddenly, I smelled something strange, and then I noticed it, smoke pouring in through the seams of the ceiling. Now, here, students, seams, that means a small gap on the roof when the houses are made, okay? So the smoke began to fill the room so quickly that we could barely see. Now, moving to the next page, 50. Groping our way. Groping means trying to walk in a blind way because there's a lot of smoke. Okay. Our way to the front door. We all ran out into the front yard. By the time we made our way outside, the whole roof was engulfed in flames. Engulfed means covered, and it was spreading quickly. I ran to the neighbors to call the fire department while I watched my mother run back into the house. My mother then ran out of the house carrying a small metal box full of important documents. She dropped the case on the lawn and, in a crazed state, ran back into the house. I knew what she was after. My father had died when I was young, and I was certain that she was not going to let his pictures and letters go up in flames. They were the only things that she had to remember him by. Still, I screamed at her, Mom, no. So, this is the tragedy that happened with them, the author. His house caught fire, and now they were trying to deal with it. So, his mother ran into the house again, second time. So, the first time to get a metal box filled with their documents, second time to get the letters which were, I would say, the letters which were left over and written by by his father. Okay, I was about to run after her when I felt a large hand hold me back. It was a fireman. I hadn't even noticed that the street had already filled with fire trucks. I was trying to free myself from his grasp, yelling, "You don't understand, my mother is in there." He held on to me while other firefighters ran into the house. He knew that I wasn't acting very logically, and that if I were to let go, I would run. If he were to let go, I would run. He was right. "It's all right. They will get her," he said. He wrapped a blanket around me and sat me down in our car. Soon after that, a fireman emerged from the house within. So, moving on to the next page, 51. With my mom in tow. Tow here means that the bed, okay, the lying bed. He quickly took her over to the truck, and put an oxygen mask on her. I ran over and hugged her. All those times I had argued with her and hated her vanished at the thought of losing her. So this is a situation, students, we all encounter. Okay, there are situations when your mother or when your father are trying to push you around. You feel that they are trying to push you around. Okay, and you feel that yes, they should just go away, or they should not be here. And situations like such, then you only want them to be all right. So, "She's going to be okay," said the fireman. "She's just inhaled a little smoke." And then he ran back to the fire to fight the fire while my mother and I sat there dazed. I remember watching my house burn down and thinking that there was nothing I could do about it. 5 hours later, the fire was finally out. Our house was almost completely burned down. But then it struck me I hadn't seen my cat. Where was my cat? Much to my horror, I realized that she was nowhere to be found. Then all at once it hit me. The new school, the fire, my cat. I broke down in tears and cried and cried. I was suffering loss big time. The fireman wouldn't let us go back into the house that night. It was still so dangerous. Dead or alive, I couldn't imagine leaving without knowing about my cat. Regardless, I had to go. We piled into the car, and with just the clothes on our backs and a few of fireman blanket, and made our way to our grandparents' house to spend the night. So, see, students, how worse the situation had become for this child. First thing is that yes, the first challenge. So, this is all about the challenges that he had to face. First challenge, changing the school. Second challenge, missing the friends. Third challenge, yes, of course, the house getting burned down. The next challenge, losing his cat. and now no place to stay, so they had to go to their grandparents' house. The next day, Monday, I went to school. When the fire broke out, I was still wearing the dress I had worn to church that morning, but I had no shoes. I had kicked them off when I was doing my homework. They became yet another casualty of the fire. So I had to borrow some tennis shoes from my aunt. Why couldn't I just stay at home from school? My mother wouldn't hear of it, but I was totally embarrassed by everything. The clothes I was wearing looked weird. I had no books or homework, and my backpack was gone. I had my life in that backpack. The more I tried to fit in, the more I tried to fit in, the worse it got. Was I destined to be an outcast and a geek all my life? Now, here, students, this sentence means, was I destined to be an outcast? To be an outcast here means to be left out or to be punished always. A geek means a stupid person all my life. That's what it felt like. I didn't want to grow up, change, or have to handle life. If it was going to be this way. I wanted to curl up and die. So these are quite similar situations, that at one point of life, even you guys feel in such a way that you're strangled, you are stuck between your house, between your studies, and yes, and you just feel like that, yes, you should be left alone. So, see, students, it's not about being left alone. Yes, it is fine that you feel कि आपको अकेला छोड़ दिया जाए, but ultimately it is you who has to gather courage and stand up and start facing the life ahead. Okay, I walked around my school like a zombie. Zombie here means a person who is lifeless or senseless. Everything felt surreal. Surreal means disturbed or depressed, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. All the security I had known from my old school, my friends, my house, my cat, had all been ripped away. So the things which he used to rely upon, or the things which were very close to him or important to him, they were no more there with him, not even his house. When I walked through what used to be my house, what used to be my house after school that day, I was shocked to see how much damage there was. Whatever hadn't burned was destroyed by water and chemicals they used to put out the fire. The only material thing not destroyed were the photo albums, documents, and some other personal items that my mother had managed to heroically rescue. But my cat was gone, and my heart ached for her. Ache means my heart was depressed for her. There was no time to grieve. My mother rushed me out of the house. We would have to find a place to live. I would have to go buy some clothes for school. We had to borrow money from my grandparents because there were no credit cards, cash, or even any identification to be able to withdraw money from bank. Everything had gone up in smoke. That week, the rubble that used to be our house was being cleared off the lot. So that week, the rubble means here the destroyed part of the house. So that started getting cleaned off. Even though we had rented an apartment nearby, I would go over to watch them clear away the debris. Debris means the leftover or the scattered things. Okay. Now, students, why is the author trying to go back to his house? One is because this proves how closely he was attached to his house, and the second thing is that he was hoping that some place or the other his cat would come out from there, or even if his cat was lost, then the cat would definitely come back to this house. So with that hope that yes, his cat would someday be there, he kept going there. So hoping that my cat was somewhere to be found. She was gone. I kept thinking about her and that vulnerable little kitten. In the early morning, when I would disturb her and get out of the bed, she would tag along after me, climb up my robe, and crawl into my pocket to fall asleep. I was missing her terribly. It always seems that bad news spreads quickly, and in my case, it was no different. Everyone in high school, including the teachers, was aware of my plight. Plight means the bad situation. I was embarrassed as if somehow I were responsible. What a way to start off a new school. This was not the kind of attention I was looking for. So here students, again the situation is not easy for him, because when you go to new school, so you prefer or you try to keep things very perfect, so that your image, the new image that you're trying to make, is a good one. But here it turned out to be a different one. He wanted to prove himself in a good way, but rather now here what was happening is, बिकॉज ऑफ द बर्नड हाउस, सबको पता चल चुका था कि इनका घर जल चुका है, तो यहाँ पे सब उसकी तरफ देख रहे थे सिंपथी, एक सिंपथी वे में, तरसती हुई निगाहों से, विच ही डिड नॉट लाइक. The next day at school, people were acting even more strange than usual. I was getting ready for my gym class at my locker. People were miling around me, asking me to hurry up. Miling around me means मेरे इर्द गिर्द घूम रहे थे और मुझे जल्दबाजी करवा रहे थे. I thought it strange, but in the light of the past few weeks, nothing would surprise me. It almost seemed that they were trying to shove me into the gym. Then I saw why. तो उसे ये लग रहा था कि yes, they are just trying to ignore him and trying to just rush him कि फटाफट चले जाए जिम में. But then when he went to the gym, then he realized there was a big table set up, all kinds of stuff on it, just for me. They had taken up a collection and bought me school supplies, notebooks, all kinds of different clothes, jeans, tops, sweatsuits. It was like Christmas. I was overcome by emotion. People who had never spoken to me before were coming up to me to introduce themselves. I got all kinds of invitations to their house. Their genuine outpouring of concern really touched me. In that instant, I finally breathed a sigh of relief and thought for the first time that things were going to be okay. I made friends that day. So this is that point of time when he was thinking in a negative way, that people were trying to be sympathetic towards him. But यहाँ पे इसको realize हुआ, everything was turning to be positive, because they all loved him, they bought things for him. So that is the day when he made new friends as well. A month later, I was at my house watching them rebuild it. But this time it was different. I wasn't alone. I was with two of my new friends from school. It took a fire for me to stop focusing on my feelings of insecurity and open up to the wonderful world, wonderful people around me. This is a very important line, students. See, it took a fire. इसका मतलब ये है कि so far he had been just regretting and he had been hating his life for the losses that he had to face. And जब आग लग गई and things later on, after the fire, he got new clothes and they shifted to a rented house. The house is now going to be rebuilt. So this is what he realized, that yes, things are not so bad after all, and things do become better. Okay. Now he also says that yes, the house was going to be a new one. So it was a new one, and similarly his life had changed into a new one. Earlier he was alone, now he had two friends sitting beside him. Now I was sitting there watching my house being rebuilt when I realized my life was doing the same thing. While we sat there on the curb planning my new bedroom, curb here means the corner, I heard someone walk up to me from behind and say, "Does this belong to you?" When I turned around to see who it was, I couldn't believe my eyes. A woman was standing there holding my cat. I leapt up and grabbed her out of the woman's arms. I held her close to me and cried into that beautiful orange fur. She purred happily. My friends were hugging me, hugging the cat, and jumping around. So see how things started improving when his mindset changed, when his thought changed from negativity to positivity. So how things started working out, and he started getting everything what he felt he had lost. So finally he had got his cat back. Apparently my cat had been so freaked by the fire that she ran over a mile away. Her collar had our phone number on it, but our phone numbers had been destroyed and disconnected. This wonderful woman took her in and worked hard to find out whose cat it was. Somehow she knew this cat was loved and sorely missed. As I sat there with my friends, my cat curled up in my lap, and all the overwhelming feelings of loss and tragedy seemed to diminish. Seem to diminish means seem to be losing, or we can say decreasing, disappearing. I felt gratitude for my life, my friends, my new friends, the kindness of a stranger, and the loud purr of my beloved cat. My cat was back, and so was I. So, this is again a beautiful line. He says in the end that my cat returned to me, and so was I, means even I had changed into a new person, and even I had become a better person now. So the chapter is written by Zan Gudiso, and yes, the character is Zan himself, who has written the story about his life situation, real life situation that he had to face. So, student, these are the word meanings you have behind your books. Now you'll be receiving a PDF file like we do as usual, and in that you will be receiving your question answers and the notes. You'll be receiving the details of the question answers that you have to mark and note down in your copies. And also students, yeah, if you have again any doubt, please write us an email on the same email ID that you have received. I'll be mentioning that email ID in the PDF as well. So I hope you enjoyed the story, students. And in this story, if you listen to it again or if you try to read it again, I'm sure the story will touch each one of you, because there could be some related situation, or there could be some any other situation where even you would have got into. But yes, the key point of the chapter is that yes, you need to get up and start moving. It is only you in your mind who can lift up yourself. Okay, of course, yes, your friends do matter. They encourage you, they are there with you for your for your emotional support. But yes, it is up to you that when you decide to change things around yourself. Okay, students, I hope you enjoyed the chapter. Thank you very much. We'll meet in the next session now.